You picture the Mediterranean sun sliding low, the scent of salt and olive trees drifting across a harbor, and you're back in a world that felt very familiar and strangely other. The story of Atlantis begins not as an archaeological report or a soundbite on late-night radio, but as a philosophical parable told by one of ancient Greece's greatest minds. Around 360 BC, Plato wrote about a mysterious island civilization located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what the modern world calls the Strait of Gibraltar. In his dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, Plato paints a picture that feels cinematic even today. Imagine a civilization enormous in scale, wealthy beyond imagination, technologically advanced, and ruled by powerful kings. The language Plato uses is vivid: vast plains, concentric rings of land and water, a central acropolis gleaming with temples. You can almost see the bronze and gold, hear the clatter of feet on polished stone, smell incense rising from massive altars. He described a people with the resources to build giant canals that threaded through their capital, massive temples that rose like mountains, advanced ports bustling with trade, and city planning that suggested engineering prowess centuries beyond its time. Plato's Atlantis is as much an idea as a place, a mirror, a cautionary tale, and a puzzle all wrapped together. The Atlanteans had enormous wealth and incredible architecture. Their ports and canals supported flows of commerce and human ingenuity. In Plato's telling, these weren't just practical feats, they were signs of a culture that had harnessed knowledge on a broad scale. But Plato also punctuates the glamour with a warning. As the island's reach grew, its people grew proud, greedy, and corrupt. The moral decay he highlights sits at the story's heart, and it's this moral center that turns a tale of wonder into a prophecy of doom. Then catastrophe. Plato said Atlantis disappeared in a single cataclysmic day and night. Visualize this. Massive earthquakes tearing the ground open, volcanic eruptions coughing ash into the sky, and giant tsunamis sweeping across harbors and plains. In his pieces, Plato's final line is brief and dramatic: Atlantis sank into the sea. Cities and temples collapsed, channels filled with water, and an entire civilization vanished beneath the ocean as if swallowed by the earth itself. For centuries, that image sat in the realm of myth. Scholars and philosophers debated Plato's intent. Was this allegory, philosophy, a moral lesson dressed as a story? Or was he writing about an actual place recalled through fragmented oral histories? For a long time, the dominant view among historians was that Atlantis was a fictional construct, a tool Plato used to discuss the virtues and vices of societies. But stories have a way of sticking to people. And then something strange happened. As explorers mapped coastlines and divers probed ocean floors, they started finding mysterious underwater ruins in far-flung places. Ancient harbor structures, aligned stone blocks, submerged foundations. The discoveries added a layer of plausibility to the possibility that entire cities can and do disappear beneath the waves. Those finds didn't prove Plato's Atlantis, but they quietly reopened the possibility in the public imagination. You look at a world map and the Atlantic looms as a vast, unknowable place. It's no surprise that many researchers believe Atlantis may lie somewhere deep in the Atlantic Ocean. After all, the name, Atlantis, itself resonates with the ocean's name. The idea is simple and evocative. Somewhere beyond the Strait of Gibraltar, an island or series of islands might have existed and vanished. Over the years, underwater structures discovered near islands and continental shelves, formations that look eerily architectural, have fueled speculation. But despite ambitious expeditions and sensational headlines, no definitive proof has ever been found. The Atlantic remains a plausible but unproven candidate, its depths a quiet vault for secrets. One of the most persuasive and academically discussed theories points toward Santorini, an island in the Aegean Sea that was once called Thera. Thousands of years ago, Santorini suffered one of the most powerful volcanic eruptions in human history. The explosion reshaped the island, creating a caldera and burying large swaths of civilization under ash. Entire cities were damaged or destroyed, and powerful tsunamis swept across surrounding islands and coastal areas. Archaeologists uncovered layers of destruction, displaced artifacts, and evidence of abrupt social collapse. Some historians and scholars believe Plato could have been describing the memory of this catastrophe, translated and amplified through generations into the Atlantis tale. The timing isn't exact to Plato's date, and Plato's Atlantis was more extensive, but the parallels, sudden destruction, seaborne disaster, and advanced island culture, make the Santorini connection a strong contender. Then there is one of the wildest theories, Atlantis beneath Antarctica. Conspiracy researchers and speculative writers have suggested that a much warmer prehistoric period could have allowed human civilization to thrive across what is now ice. In that scenario, glaciation later buried those remains under miles of ice and snow. It's an image right out of science fiction. Ancient temples frozen in time, revealed only by melting ice or deep penetration seismic scans. Mainstream science, though, is skeptical. The geological and archaeological evidence for a complex human civilization in Antarctica is almost non-existent. Climate and ice core data point to long-term inhospitable conditions for the timeframes in question. Still, the idea captures imaginations because it combines the unknown of polar regions with the romanticism of lost civilizations. One of the reasons Atlantis attracts such fascination is the technological angle. Plato's Atlantis was described as advanced, and later traditions took that idea and ran with it. Over time, stories of advanced energy systems, flying machines, crystal-powered engines, and scientific knowledge far beyond other ancient cultures became woven into modern Atlantis myth. These claims are colorful and cinematic. Imagine an ancient city with knowledge rivaling our own, harnessing forces we can only dream of. It's crucial to be clear, there is no credible scientific evidence supporting these extreme claims. No artifacts have been authenticated that point to flying machines or crystal energy sources in the ancient world. Much of this material sits in the domain of modern myth-making, a mix of wishful thinking, misinterpreted finds, and the appeal of a narrative where humanity once held more knowledge than today. That said, the power of the Atlantis story is that it becomes a blank slate. It can be filled with lost knowledge, hidden civilizations, and the tantalizing possibility that pieces of our past have been lost to time and sea. Some even argue Atlantis's achievements influenced civilizations far from the Mediterranean, like Egypt or the Maya, but those connections remain speculative and unsupported by solid archaeological links. If you follow underwater archaeology, you'll notice a pattern. Every so often, a discovery reignites interest. Divers and marine geologists have found strange underwater formations in places like the Bahamas, Japan, Greece, and Cuba. One especially famous site is the Bimini Road, off the coast of the Bahamas, a linear alignment of huge stone blocks that sparked heated debate when first reported. To some, the arrangement looked like a submerged road or wall, a clear sign of past human construction. To others, it resembled natural rock formations shaped by currents and geological processes. The discovery process itself is worth knowing about. Technologies like sonar mapping, submersibles, and satellite imagery have transformed how researchers explore the ocean. We can map the seafloor in unprecedented detail, revealing patterns and anomalies. Sometimes those patterns turn out to be geological. Other times they point to human activity, submerged harbors, shipwrecks, or ancient shoreline structures. But the big caveat remains. None of these underwater finds has produced incontrovertible proof of Atlantis. Instead, they underscore another truth. Earth's history is messy, and coastlines have shifted dramatically. Cities that once stood by the sea can now lie underwater because of rising seas, subsidence, or seismic events. So while no site is identified conclusively as Plato's Atlantis, many discoveries demonstrate how completely a place can vanish from the surface and the historical record. Why are people obsessed with Atlantis? The answer is partly psychological and partly cultural. Atlantis stands for mystery. It stands for lost knowledge, for civilizations that seem to vanish completely, taking their craft and secrets with them. The story teases a terrifying possibility, that human achievement can be erased, leaving only crumbs of evidence and wild speculation. On a deeper level, Atlantis is a canvas for our fears and hopes. We project onto it what we most want to believe about ourselves, that we were once more advanced, or wiser, or that civilization can be perfectly arranged. We also project our worst fears, that prosperity breeds decadence, corruption, or environmental neglect, and that even the mightiest societies can vanish. Those dual projections, hopeful and fearful, keep the story alive. Atlantis forces a question. Could ancient civilizations have been more advanced than we realize? Could human history contain missing chapters, civilizations that rose, flourished, and fell without leaving clear traces in our archaeological record? Many historians read Plato not as a literal historian, but as a moralist. In this view, Atlantis is primarily a warning, an allegory about greed, corruption, arrogance, and the collapse of powerful societies. The rise from abundance to excess, and then the fall through moral decay, reads like a parable with teeth. It's a story about how a society's strengths, organization, wealth, power, can transform into the very factors that destroy it. That message feels disturbingly relevant in the modern world. Today, our civilization faces climate disasters, technological risks, war, inequality, and environmental collapse. The idea that great advances in engineering and technology can precede a moral erosion resonates. Plato's tale is a reminder that human progress, untamed by ethics and foresight, can lead to ruin. Seeing Atlantis as a metaphor shifts the focus from finding a physical place to understanding how societies manage power and responsibility. In that sense, the fall of Atlantis becomes a mirror, not ancient history alone, but an urgent question about possible futures. Now consider the most unsettling possibility. What if Atlantis really existed and parts of it still lie hidden beneath the ocean? You live on a planet where humans have mapped only a fraction of the seafloor. Vast swaths of ocean remain unexplored, especially at depths where light never reaches and technology is only beginning to probe. Entire cities might still be undiscovered beneath layers of sediment. Advances in deep-sea scanning and submersible technology are slowly broadening our view. As these tools improve, the chance of making dramatic finds increases, and with each new discovery, the public imagination tilts toward those larger questions. What would it mean to find an ancient advanced city under the waves? How would that rewrite our understanding of human history? Right now, somewhere beneath Earth's oceans, there may be ruins nobody has ever seen, ancient structures waiting under miles of water, hidden by silt and time. The silence there is profound. If Atlantis was real, then one terrifying question remains unanswered. What else from human history has been lost forever? You realize that humanity may know far less about its past than it believes. For every site we have studied, there are scores more we haven't. That gap fuels curiosity, wonder, and a quiet, persistent dread. As you picture the dark ocean depths, it's easy to imagine lights from a submersible sweeping over stone blocks, an archaeologist's breath held as sonar reveals lines that shouldn't be there. The thought is equal parts thrilling and humbling. The past is a puzzle with missing pieces, and the search for Atlantis, whether literal or symbolic, pushes us to keep looking, keep questioning, and keep listening to the old stories that still have the power to teach. Subscribe to Infinity Explained for more deep dives into history's mysteries, lost civilizations, universe documentaries, science theories, and mind-blowing educational videos. Comment below. Do you believe Atlantis was real? Share which theory you find most convincing and why, Atlantic, Santorini, Antarctica, or somewhere else entirely. Your thoughts keep the conversation alive and the mystery moving forward.